Incident Report. The Kiamuck Event. Summary. The exact details of the origin of the event are still being investigated, but some information has been retrieved. The event began at 1:47, October 21st, 2014, at the loading docks located 20 miles from Kiamuck. The loading dock was utilized by the local populace to offload supplies from passing shipping vessels. Due to the topography of the waters around the island, an unusually deep channel was present along the shore, allowing large tankers to easily maneuver around the island and provide an effective shortcut back to the shipping lanes. The island was used as a refueling and resupply depot for vessels leaving the inner islands. The town that sprung up had a population estimated at 137 people. The town was located on the southeast side of the island, due to the presence of a small protected bay and a sheltering hill line on that side of the island. Also of importance was a small industrial compound that had been set up on the western side of the island after purchasing land from the town government. The owner, Futuro Industries, had proven to be a dummy corporation, and attempts to trace a true owner have been proven unfruitful. Statements taken by individuals who interacted with workers from the facility indicated that it was involved in chemical research, though the nature of this research was unclear. Manifests for items offloaded for the facility were vague, fraudulent, or routine items. Of particular note was the manifest for the delivery of October 15th. The cargo offloaded included 2 large chemical tanks of an unidentified non-hazardous chemical and several pieces of unspecified heavy machinery. We have managed to track down one of the crew for that delivery, and he indicated that the machinery had appeared to be some kind of scientific equipment. He also mentioned that the chemical tanks were handled and accompanied by Futuro Industries personnel instead of the crew. He also noted that several crewmen who had entered the storage hold containing the tanks noted that the hold felt unusually cold, even for winter. The witness states that the tanks and equipment were offloaded without incident. At this point, information becomes sketchy. What is known is that on the 21st at 1:47, the Kiamuck Sheriff Office reported a loud explosion from the western side of the island, and what appeared to be a fire, based on flickering light coming from that side of the island. He would radio in again at 1:50 that there was evidently no fire, as the light had died out. Subsequent investigation of the Futuro Industries site indicates an explosion and fire did occur at the facility. The explosion did destroy one building, but signs of fire were extremely limited. Scorch patterns indicate the fire burned for less than 1 minute before being extinguished. The security camera footage recovered from the Futuro site and the loading dock was spotty. Cameras at the site were recording onto hard drives when the incident began, and most were rendered inoperable or lost power during the explosion. However, one hard drive managed to survive and record the incident. At 1:47, a pressure wave and a bright flash can be observed on the footage, followed by a flickering light consistent with fire. Over the next minute, the flickering light is extinguished. A low, hanging cloud of white fog begins to spread across the ground, slowly growing denser and higher. At 1:52, the lights illuminating the monitored area go out, and the footage displays a warning that system is now on battery power and will soon shut down. The footage captured behind this on-screen warning is now completely dark, save for the occasional flicker of light. Footage from the loading dock was more easily retrieved. The dock system was a VHS-based system, and was not damaged in the explosion, or suffered no loss of power. The footage shows that at 1:58, a low heavy fog begins rolling in from the western side of the island. The fog appears to contain floating objects of what can only be described as snowflakes. However, at several points, electrical energy appears to arc through the clouds, appearing to originate from the snowflakes. As the fog envelops onto the lights on the dock, the light can be seen to flash and then go out. And this repeats as the fog overcomes each light. The fog swallows the first of the 4 dock security cameras. The footage from that camera goes blurry, and then it cuts off. Slowing down the footage, we have determined that what happens is a rapid crystallization of moisture inside of the lenses, following by the fracture of lenses and the failure of the camera. At the same time code, a nearby camera records a bright flash. This repeats for each camera in succession. At 2:05, Kiamuck Sheriff reports a low-hanging fog rolling in from the northeast shore. Weather records indicated prevailing wind from the west that night, and the hills had likely prevented the floating cloud from rolling straight across the island. The sheriff indicated he is sending his deputy with a chemical sensor to the location to test if the cloud contains any toxic substances, and that the emergency response services should hurry up. At 2:15, the sheriff radios in that he has lost radio contact with his deputy, and that the fog is sparking as it rolls into town. Emergency responders approaching the town from the west around 2 report sudden and extreme blizzard conditions. One fire response helicopter is lost in the pop-up storm. The 2 boats responding indicate they are unable to approach the island due to the frozen seas. This is of particular note, as the route had been cleared for the cargo ship on the 15th, and ambient conditions for the previous week were unseasonably warm, which should have inhibited sea ice formation. Temperature data from the ship's instruments indicated an air temperature low of -50 degrees Celsius. The weather maps for the time in this question show an extremely dense storm extending over a few miles off the shore of the island. After withdrawing several miles, the air temperature rises to -1 degree Celsius, unseasonably warm for the area at night. There is no further communication with the island. The pop-up blizzard around the island persists for several days before subsiding. Observers indicate flashes of lightning and rumbles of thunder inside of the storm, and emergency response crews are prepped to respond at the nearest dock. It is decided that military rescue teams will be the first in order to assess damage and decide what resources are needed most critically. Over the night from October 25th to the 26th, the storm rapidly abates. At 9 on October 26th, it is determined the storm is dissipated, and first response by the Canadian Forces Search and Rescue has begun. Video of their initial approach to the island by helicopter has been restricted due to security concerns. But summarizing, the island appears to be buried under large amounts of snow as they approach. However, as a helicopter comes down for a landing, the snow collapses and disperses under the rotor wash, leaving it in a layer of hoarfrost several feet deep. The copter touches down in the exposed area. An initial recon begins. Air temperature is recorded at -20 degrees Celsius, while temperature at the staging dock 20 miles away is 5 degrees Celsius. Also of note, ambient humidity is 0 degrees at Kiamuck. The rescue team clears the path to the nearest structure to the landing site, a residential dwelling. The exterior of the house is coated in the thick hoarfrost present around the rest of the site, and all points of entry are frozen shut. After working on the door for several minutes, the team is able to gain entry into the house. Inside of the house, there is a layer of frost coating everything the camera pans across. A search of the house finds 2 occupants in the bedroom. They are covered in heavy clothing and blankets, but appear to have frozen to death. The search of the island takes several days, during which the frost is broken up and the town is unearthed. No survivors are found. The second team is also sent to the site of the initial explosion. In addition to previously noted information about the site, it is important to note here that the conditions on the western side of the island are more in line with standard after blizzard conditions. Snow has drifted as deep as 6 feet in some places, and wind has flattened all structures in the site not damaged by the explosion. Bodies of 7 individuals are recovered from the site. 4 appear to have died in the explosion. The other 3 present a far more interesting picture. 2 recovered from the edge of the site appear to have been frozen to death. However, a lack of frostbite in extremities or extracellular ice indicates a rapid freezing process of almost similar to flash freezing. The coroner estimates they must have reached temperatures near -200 degrees Celsius in less than a second. More interestingly, a closer examination revealed that the bodies did not cool from the outside to the inside, but rather cooled in a radiating pattern from a single wound. These wounds on the forehead of one victim and the hand of the other are around 1 inch in size, and are, in the coroner's words, unlike anything he's ever seen before. His best approximation is that it is similar to frostbite, but far more violent. The skin came into contact with something that reduced its temperature so fast that the cells simply disintegrated due to cellular contraction and intercellular ice formation. As you move away from the wound, the severity is reduced, but it is still quite disturbing. His best guess is that they came into contact with something about the size of a quarter that somehow drained away all the heat in their bodies in less than a second. The final body throws more shadow onto the situation. The individual was killed by a massive electrical discharge, similar to what one might expect to see if he'd come into contact with high voltage equipment. No high voltage equipment was present where the body was found, and time of death was estimated to be around the time of the explosion. The burn pattern of the wound indicates that the electricity struck him in the center of his chest, again not consistent with coming in contact with high voltage equipment by mistake. It bears more similarity to a lightning strike, though at far lower voltage and amperage. The survey of the explosion turned up no information. All data was stored on the electrical devices which shorted out or were damaged in the explosion. All material recovered from outbuildings is either standard residential or industrial equipment that is normal for a remote operation. The contents of the main building were destroyed by explosion, fire, or blizzard, though the remains of the lab equipment indicated it was some kind of laboratory or superconductor research. However, it was data uncovered in Kiamuck that would finally shed some light on what had happened. A digital camera was found near one of the residents' bodies. The camera contained a flash memory card with several photos and a single video on it. The photos appeared to be standard family photos, but the video, dated October 21st at 2:21 a.m., has proven crucial to uncovering the truth of the incident. And no transcript is available, as there is no sound on the recording, but I will summarize the contents. The video starts abruptly. The camera is being pointed out a window and it takes a moment to focus. When it does, the subject of the shot is apparently a strange white fog rolling down the street. The camera swings slightly and zooms in, showing that there what appear to be snowflakes in the fog, rolling slowly. There is a person standing in the street, apparently observing the fog rolling in. The next event is difficult to observe due to the quality of the video, but it appears that one of the snowflakes lands on the left side of the person's exposed neck. At this point, the person suddenly begins to spasm and falls to the ground after a second. It is difficult to make out, but it appears that his right leg is broken off just above the ankle, with the foot remaining stuck firmly to the ground. The camera zooms in and we can see that the right half of the person's face had turned blue, and it appears to have been frozen, both figuratively and literally. After a few more moments, there's a bright flash and the footage ends. A frame-by-frame analysis of this flash indicates it appears to begin at the victim's left shoulder, as an arc of electricity that is extending towards the house where the video is being shot from. A subsequent review of the logs of investigation of the town identifies what appears to be the body in the video. It was frozen solid, with its right foot broken off at the ankle but still upright a few feet away from the rest of the body. The house where the video was shot shows signs of a major electrical discharge, scorching the side just below the window. The body of the frozen man shows significant cold damage to the extremities, and major tissue damage on the left shoulder, and the left side of its face consistent with a lightning strike. At this time, we have no further leads. The weather patterns at the island returned to normal by November 1st, and there has been no unusual weather reported since.